Simple interest, calculating simple interest. We have a very simple formula. I equals PRT. P is the principal of the debt. That's how much you borrow. R is a simple interest rate. It's on a yearly basis. So if it's 6%, whatever you borrow, you'll pay 6% of that as a cost of borrowing per year. T is time, has to be expressed in years because this is a yearly interest rate. So now you see what we did in the previous section is important. If our time is stated in days, we have to convert it to years before we can put it in this formula. I is a simple interest, and that's the cost of borrowing. That's what you pay. If you go to the bank and borrow $100, they're going to charge you for use of their money. Here are two basic problems we're going to go through, and then I'll go through a third one. Let's suppose $125 is borrowed at 6% simple interest for 2 years. We're going to go through a 4-step process, and we're going to carry this through the whole course. Unless otherwise specified, I expect every problem to be written out like this, 4 steps. If you don't follow this format, it's wrong, plain and simple. First of all, write the formula. And the formula in this section is always going to be I equals PRT. Second of all, define the variables. We'll normally need to define these 3 variables on the right, and then we'll substitute and calculate. So as the semester goes on, you'll thank me for this format. Once you learn the format, you become comfortable with it. As we go on from section to section, we keep applying the format. You understand the math, and we're just applying it in a different situation. And this is called consumer math. We have a lot of consumer issues we'll discuss, but we also have some basic math as well. Define the variables, P. P is how much you borrow. We're borrowing $125, so we simply say P equals $25. Need to define R. R is a simple interest rate. That's stated in the problem, 6% simple interest. And what we're going to do is convert it to a decimal. Convert it to a decimal before it goes into the formula. 6%, we move the decimal over 2 places. 6%, same as 0.06. And then we're going to define T. T is the time in years. Well, it's for 2 years. So we have 2 years. Next, we substitute I equals, for P, we put in 25. You can leave the units off in the equation. For R, we have 0.06. And for T, we have 2. Okay, and then calculate. Okay, organize your work. Now let's go ahead and calculate this with a calculator. 25 times 0.06 times 2 equals. Then we end up with 3. $3. Exactly. Okay, 6% of 25 is 1.5, and you double that, we get $3. That's exactly how we're going to solve these problems. Okay. Now we have question number 2. Let's clear a little space here. First of all, we write the formula. I equals PRT. You don't have to state write the formula, but this is good for your notes, so you remember what it is you're doing. So we write the formula. Next, we define the variables. P equals $250 is borrowed. R equals 8.25%. You have to move the decimal over once, twice. 0.0825. And T equals, okay, guess what? Time has to be in years. So what are we going to do? 3 months is 3 over 12. Don't worry about reducing it. We'll let the calculator do that. You can reduce this, convert it to a decimal at this stage if you want, but if you convert this to a decimal, don't round because we want to round off at the end. And substitute I equals P 250 times R 0.0825 times T, which is 3 over 12. And so we're going to do 250 times 0.0825 times 3 divided by 12 equals, and looks to me like we get $5.16. Okay, it's 15.625, which we rounded up to 6. Okay, over here it was $3. We had more money, but we had a smaller, greater interest in a shorter period of time. So, and just one note, when you're calculating this, is 250 times this divided by that. You can times 3 divided by 12, and your calculator works it out. Just as a check, 8% of 250, 8% of 100 is 8, 8% of another 100 is 8, 8% of 50 is 4, 8 and 8 and 4 is 20, and you're taking a quarter of 20. A quarter of 20, guess what, is 5. So it looks like we're in the ballpark. You can estimate these answers by rounding this percent off. One more example. The problems aren't that difficult at this stage of the game, but we want you to get the format down because these formulas can get quite complicated. We'll work our way up to where we're evaluating fairly sophisticated formulas. And of course, if you have the format down, you can organize your work on a piece of paper, and that's really the key to getting the right answer. And 3, let's suppose we have $350 borrowed and 4% simple interest for 31 days. So you could approximate this as 1/12 of a year, but a bank is going to be computerized. They'll calculate exact days divided by 365. Well, step 1, write the formula. I equals PRT. Step 2, define the variables. P equals 350. R equals 0.04. And T is equal to 31 divided by 365. And so we substitute I equals 350 times 0.04 times 31 over 365. And of course we have 350 times 0.04 times 31 divided by 365 equals, and it looks like we have $1.19. Okay, not that much. I can estimate this. This is 1/12 of a year. 4% of 350, 4% of 100 is 4 times 3 is 12. Add 2, that's 14. And we're taking 1/12 of 14. It's going to be $1 something. 1/12 of 12 is $1. 1/12 of 14 is a little more. So that's a good ballpark figure. So, okay, that's all for calculating simple interest. 3 basic principles. If it's stated in years, you just substitute. If it's stated in months, you got to divide by 12. It keeps it very simple. If you divide by 12 right here, when you define the variables, you do that intermediary step. It keeps it keeps the problems fairly straightforward. So, okay, that's all for this video.